Dear Tom Homan, that's a joke when you guys say no one's above the law. You guys have collusions with overt criminal enterprises and private ones with Weathersfield police putting fake transcripts, fake conversations with me when I was a kid and when I was an adult, and their sources have rules planting evidences with them with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and with their educators involved with predicate acts with databases and differences. That's what, in other words, you guys have crimes against the people of the streets clearer than day. The little kids could discern it since they were kids. And the people of the sciences and the branches of government make confessions to them with their own kids too. In other words, they know they have rules. They can't afford to have discern what nature shows us. For example, what it is about, how there's a witch child's place next to Webb House, now renamed the Webb Stevens Museum. And they have other communicated for that founding locations and the rest of the founding locations than our founders, plural, communicated to have communicated for themselves. Beginning with how they communicate for us to refer to themselves, plural, as James Madison, singular. And we're supposed to get in how his plan, how they had to counter, extort, and force the rest of the founders and the rest of the principal, the rest of the presidents slash chiefs, and those aren't supposed to be compatible volumes. This is about hyper additional nature, and about how that helps us better and better discern that which is actually positive, true always, or not. Then we're using a system tactical terrier. So we now hunger and thirst through systems tactical terrier from the one that is about power properly. That is about positive property. There's a difference between positive things like peace when they're only positive as criminal insidiousness natures of peace or of truth or of truths or of facts. In other words, truths can be used for lies and to screen lies. Lies can be put between truths and motivations, like screening of a breaching method. It is replaced right from the founders' communications to us, even though they had that declassified for us. Even though they had it declassified, that how and why our founders did not have free speech, and simultaneously they had to pretend other to an extent slash s. Otherwise, they would have been sensed as a body, including if they were a body as a majority of people, including if they were a body as we are still are, as everyone, as each country, still entertaining locations, areas, of states, criminally foreign influence slash hyper criminally foreign influenced, and pretending other for the breaching method that kept and keeps that the outcome slash s. In other words, black pupils, period. Please. There are former director of the F.B.i, Robert Luskin, former standing chairperson on the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, Mr. Homan. He has rules with people from Canada and with people from Mexico. Involved also with a Mexican diver, a diver from Venezuela, involved with people intercities, like with the name Scalora. With Central Connecticut State University, has roles with counters to the borders too, and with the people from New Mexico, and people from Maine, and people from the Clinton Correctional Facility, and the people that escaped from it. Involved also with the people that work at Facebook. Involved also with F.B.i Director Robert Luskin, his co-defendants, their family members, and their lawyer. Involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and with the kids of and ties to the neighbors of the co-defendants of former director of the F.B.i, Robert Luskin, increasingly involved with people involved with predicate acts with Weathersfield police on my street from other areas, and ongoing with extended family members and cousins of a house involved further with a principal child abuser. And they have not responded to me. They put me in fake to change communications with him. They hate what I recorded them doing. And in other words, they didn't let me speak and made him call back and put all these messages to me and to other people. All these messages to me, though. And he kept saying more confessions and confirming things and saying fake things that were confessing things too. And I never got to speak. They kept cutting me off and telling me to go wait. In other words, then they arrested me for harassment for calling back. I never got to speak. They don't know what I was going to say, except for they know they had to hide things. like their roles with some untimely deaths, and people with the name Scalora involved with some sexual and medical offenders, with police forging and switching names, and roles with a bunch of people at the Britain Superior Court involved with such, and overt criminal enterprises and private ones at the same time, originally and still. Religion, Phil, be child tribes. Don't give us that garbage telling us that no one's above the law. And the people, if they want it, in other words, they're trying to pretend that they need showed the need to pretend others the attack on the Capitol, rather than have the debate about it on paper and block the election, block the results. And you think that you have to calm it down. Don't force a trial about it and then keep that to cover up what came first. True. In other words, even if the whole thing was made up too, you guys have on off the state capital of Connecticut involved with organized crime methods that are inseparable from the Washington D.C. and the names involved with two speech class teachers I have, and the students putting fake ties, fake natures of ties to me, trying to make it look like we had a conversation from across the room is a manifest where we're all along Route 175 from the founding locations in Old Wethersfield. There are increasingly people that have roles of predicate acts with facts at campuses, with the educators, their family members, other natures of conjunctions to them. More leaders of the kids are worse than criminally incompetent, like people with the name O'Connor, a mother and daughter, too, further involved with sexual and medical offenders of kids, and people putting fake conversations with themselves and with other people, with their family members about that. I didn't even speak with my family's members about this. They're increasingly involved with medical and sexual offenders of kids, ones with the name Leahy at Hartford Hospital that fake conversations with me. They have a Lombardo family too that had some other kid screaming at some lady in the place. Then they pretended I was doing that. I was screaming the first time when I got forced down there. In other words, they have the people they had down there are increasingly people with the Parks and Rec, involved with drugs and medicines crimes with the kids, with foreign and domestic medical families and intelligence families supposed to counter that stuff. They're involved with identity thefts and frauds, predicate acts with the news and the intelligence next to them, like a Domain family and a Mendez family, involved with Fox Connecticut News in Hartford, Connecticut, involved also with the Wethersfield Police Department with sexual and medical offenders of kids, identity theft, fraud, slanders, fake conversations with me there as a kid, now as an adult, as their roles with the news, covering that up too. Overt criminal enterprises and private ones involved with those same ones, not legitimately unmarked police forms of intelligence at the state corrections offices and next to it, increasingly involved with criminal enterprises in the World Trade Center attack. See, we have all these different countries that are shared next to the campuses. As sickly, there are probate court judges, family members, and their extended family members that have collusions with identity thefts, fraud, slanders on my street, and they affected that. And they have sexual circles with each other. And they're keeping all positive and negative criminal and seriousness natures of them. And they're framing people, including with why and how they show up at and what it means at parties. With all ages of people. In other words, if you don't even at the party, they put fake ties to you, like with the Frankie Reese, increasingly involved with people in the state of Connecticut corrections offices and Wethersfield Police Department and the judicial branch offices too. And they names next to it involved further with the World Trade Center predicate acts, foreign and domestic military, Hartford courts, all sides of criminal and civil cases, depositions, and the court's names and the names